John Lee Dumas, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here today.
Dr. Cabral, I am fired up to be here. You have been my functional medicine doctor for many, many years now. So I know, like, trust, love, and respect you, and I'm excited to share the mic with you.
Yeah, we've had a great relationship over these past 5 years or so, getting to know each other. Really, I came to you, I would say, about 2016, or maybe just right before that. When I was in private practice, I was thinking about saying, you know what? I'm enjoying my private practice, but wouldn't it be great if I was able to teach more people around the world? So I said, hey, let me check out some podcasts out there. I listened to a couple to this day, and your name kept coming up as a podcast coach and mentor. That's when we got introduced. And as they say, the rest is history. So I first want to just acknowledge you for all of your help in me getting started. I know that we've had conversations before, but for me, podcasting and being able to teach on a daily basis is my favorite thing to do. And before I had met you, I never knew anyone did a daily show. So we shared that same kindred spirit. So once again, thank you so much for helping me get into this field.
Well, listen, brother, I received that. I really do. My why is helping people get their message, their mission, their voice out to the world. And when I see someone like you, who is honestly just producing so much great content, helping so many people, like, that is the answer to my why. Like, that's the ripple effect that I want to have. And this is why I keep working this hard to make that happen. Not to mention, I've helped you in my area of expertise. I've been an absolute avid follower of you. Every 6 months, I'm taking the tests. I'm getting the supplement plan from you every single day. I'm doing DNS. I'm doing fruits and vegetables in my shake. I'm taking the supplements I need to be taking. I'm healthier now at 41 years old than I was the day I met you. So it goes both ways, brother.
That's fantastic to hear. It really is. And that's the amazing thing. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show here today, we're going to be talking about a lot of what you've learned on your podcast, EO Fire, over the past 5 years and 3,000 episodes now? I think
3,000 plus, brother.
It's amazing. I mean, it really is. But the simple thing that I've learned is that I started just like anybody else. I mean, I just had friends and family listening to the show, would send it out to a small group of email list and different people in my community. And there was no hockey stick, really exponential takeoff for me, except that 10% month over month compounding end up becoming a pretty big number. So the first month, maybe it's 1,000. Okay. And the next month it's 1,100, and it just starts to grow like that. And now, we're at over 20 million downloads 5 years later.
Wow.
And it's just saying, like, hey, all you have to do sometimes in life is to begin to decide what it is that you want to do. And then it's the moving forward part, though, that sometimes people lack. They don't have that plan. So what is it that and I wanted to have you on because you have so much knowledge, interviewing 3,000 plus people, plus you're a very successful business owner and entrepreneur yourself. What is it that you've kind of seen as commonalities amongst all the successful people that you've interviewed?
There's really been three major commonalities, and this applies in business, but this also just applies in life in general. These entrepreneurs who are successful, who have found their version of uncommon success, they are productive individuals. They are disciplined individuals, and they are focused individuals. And to break down those three things very quickly, what does it even mean to be productive? Because people think they're productive. They're wrong. They're busy and they're all over the place. Right. Being productive means you are producing the right content. You are producing the right products and services for your audience. And that's something that you do fantastically well. That's why you have over 20 million total listens of your show, because you get up every day and you produce the right content. You and I right now, we are producing the right content. We are both living in our zones of fire, making that happen. So what is discipline? Discipline means having a plan of action and being a disciple to executing that plan. As you know, I was an officer in the U.S. Army, 8 years. We learned that you have to have a plan of action, because if you don't, things will happen that you don't want to happen, especially in a time of war. When I spent 13 months in Iraq. So I saw both sides of that equation. So I was committed that when I became an entrepreneur and I could do whatever I wanted, which is what most people end up doing, that I was going to have a plan of action every day and execute. And there's no way that Dr. Cabral could get up every day and do all the things he does every single day without a plan of action that he has and he executes. He is a disciple to that plan of action. And the third thing, focus. You have to follow one course until success. Focus. This is what all successful entrepreneurs do. They don't go 1 mile wide and 1 inch deep with all these ideas. They go 1 inch deep. 1 inch wide and 1 mile deep. And they absolutely own that corner of the market. The day I launched Entrepreneurs on Fire back in 2012, it was the best daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. It was the worst daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. It was the only daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. I owned that niche, just like Dr. Cabral has owned the 7, 14, 21 day detox and all the other things that he's owned. But it was one thing at a time. You focus on that thing, you own it, you crush it, and then you get the systems up and the processes, and then you can move your focus on to something else, but not until you've set that up for total success.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Is that first you need to have your focus, because I feel if you know what it is that you want to do, if you're passionate about it, then you're going to set up your schedule in a way to be able to move forward in that. Because if you don't, it just eats at you all day. Like if I'm off for, let's say, a week, like a week's vacation, don't get me wrong, I like vacation like the next person. But after a week, I'm saying to myself, I need to get back to the other part to my life, which is my work. I love my family and all that alone time with them. But at some point, it's like, well, they both pull at me. So when I'm at work, I want to be with my family. And when I'm with my family, I want to be at my work. So I just find the balance between those two. And that for me is really important. And I think another thing is that I found integration, meaning like when I'm home with my girls at night, we're talking about health. We're talking about good nutrition. We're talking about those things. So it's like, it's really nicely integrated. But what I would say to you is, well, I guess first, how are we supposed to find our passion, like what it is that we're going to then develop this plan towards? Does it just come to us? Is it natural? Do we need to work at it? What have you seen over the past, again, 3,000 shows?
Listen, this has been 3,000 shows, 3,000 conversations, hundreds, literally thousands of conversations with people who have succeeded, failed, and done all those things multiple times, myself included. I'm entering my first decade, my completed decade of being an entrepreneur here. And I've gone the ups and the downs, but it all does come back to something that you just mentioned, which is, are you living every day within your big idea? Have you identified your big idea? Are you spending your time, your energy, your bandwidth in your zone of fire? And the answer for most people is absolutely not. And that's really unfortunate. Some people need to just wipe the slate clean, find their big idea and start over. Some people, frankly, they're close. They just need to tweak, adjust, and pivot a few things, and boom, now they're living in that zone of fire. And once you start there, it is a game changer. We'll be talking more about this later, but this is what I spent all 2020 doing, developing a 17-step roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment in this book. And step 1 is exactly what Dr. Cabral just talked about. It's identifying your big idea. You have to have that right. Without that foundational thing in place, everything else goes out the window. And this is for health. This is for wealth. This is for relationships. This is for business. This is across the board. Because by the way, I had my big idea back in 2012, 2014, 2016. But until I met Dr. Cabral, I didn't really have my big idea, my North Star, when it came to what I needed to be doing health-wise every day. And I suffered as a result. That's why at 41, I'm more healthy than I was at 36, period. Like in some ways, not even close. Like it's really because I've been able to identify that big idea in business, that big idea in health, and that big idea just overall in life. That's the North Star.
Yeah. And I would even say just a little behind the scenes, obviously, without, breaking confidentiality and all those things, is that when you did decide to go all in on your health, you went all in. Like it was more important to you than a lot of business things and a lot of whatever it might be, is because I think that I really believe right now that it is difficult to be great at something unless it's your only thing for a period of time. So what I mean by that is that you can have body transformation goals, health goals, relationship goals, wealth goals, spirituality goals, but if they're all competing for your attention, it's really challenging to be great at those things. And so that's why what I say is I love breaking up the calendar into those 90-day sprints. I mean, I've used your journals for quite some time now. And the Freedom Journal, I love the Freedom Journal. I think that's like the one. And of course, the Mastery Journal is a great one as well. But you have to set a standard, like this is the amount of time that you're willing to go all in. You're not going to forget about your relationships in your business if your health is your number one goal, but they're just not brand new projects. Like like big to-dos that are going to consume your time. How have you seen that play out in your life, or did I just get that, kind of completely wrong?
You're 100% correct across all boards. And just for the record, I don't believe in confidentiality for myself personally. So everything's open, everything's honest. In fact, you know this, but some of your listeners may not. I've been publishing a monthly income report now for 89 months in a row, where we open up our books. We share everything, all the revenue that comes in from the successes we've had, all the money that's gone out for expenses or for mistakes that we've made. We bring our lawyer on for a legal tip. We bring our accountant on for a tax tip. Like, these are meaty, amazing value bombs that come every single month in the form of our income reports. Again, 89 months in a row, we've published these things. So I believe in absolute transparency. I don't hide anything from my audience, Fire Nation. I believe I need to show them the good, the bad, the ugly. And listen, to your point, Dr. Cabral, it is 100% true. If you are not going to have that focus, what is the one priority in my life, in my day, you're not going to give that the type of bandwidth, mental energy, and just overall success that it could have. All of 2020, from January 1st until August 16th, it was actually the day before I left for Maine, I spent 2 hours every single day. The first 2 hours every day writing this book. It was my number one priority. It was my number one focus. Nothing could get in the way of those first 2 hours. My workouts were incredibly important. I still did them every single day, but I sat down and I wrote for 2 hours every single day for 8 months. I hit my numbers, got to 71,000 words, 273 pages, not quite the beast of a book of the Rain Barrel Effect, which you wrote, which I've read multiple times and have more dog years than you can imagine. But, this is a meaty business book and a huge for your average size business book. And it is, it's my heart and my soul, and never would have happened if it wasn't my one single focus. Just to your point, it has to happen that way. And then, by the way, you complete that, you accomplish that goal, just like you mentioned with the Freedom Journal. You accomplish your number one goal, check that block. And now it's what's next? What's the next lowest hanging fruit that I need to accomplish? Like, I know you do this a lot with your clients. You're like, okay, there's really 44 things that we need to fix with you in your health, but like, we can't just fix all of them at once. Like, this has to be tackled first. Once this is fixed, then we can tackle this. And that's where I love your and I journey together, is every 6 months we get into it and you're like, wow, you've knocked out A, B, and C. Now we can start to get into the nitty gritty and really, be up leveling where you're at health wise, because you've been able to take care of those first 40 of the 44 things. Now we can really get into, that next level, like that 5th, 6th, 7th layer of health that some people never get to, but it all starts with that one focus.
No, you're completely right. And I mean, the things that we work on right now are, top of the top, where you're looking for things, right, to really refine and just up level yourself, just like you would in career or whatever it might be, relationships.
You're like, your vitamin D is like a 51. Like, let's just get it to a 50.5. And I'm like, okay.
Refining, fine tuning. And that's the fun part, because you've already have your health. And so, that's what I think a lot of people need to look at, is that they have to first, like, there's the icing on the cake that everybody looks at, and that's what they want. But there's the foundation that needs to be set before any of those things can be achieved. But the nice thing is, once you have that foundation, you never lose it. Like, you just gave the example of 2 hours a day, because I was going to ask you, like, how long does it take to write your book? A lot of people can do it very methodically. Yeah. Let's just say you only have an hour a day, 2 hours a day, whatever it might be. You could write 2 pages, whether they're good, bad, it doesn't really matter, but you could write 2 pages a day for 90 days. You're at 180 pages. I mean, like, you're right that's from most size books. Like, I do a Friday review book every single Friday. And a lot of books I'm seeing now is about the 200 page mark. And it's actually like a sweet spot for a book. It's very easy to read. I think my book that I wrote and probably my next book are going to be too long. They really are. It's not ideal length for people that just like sit down and consume. So what I would say is this, is that, because I was going to ask you, I just don't think, even no matter how big your goal, you really need more than an hour or two a day of focused work in order to be able to achieve that. So what are your thoughts on that?
So listen, that is just for like your big idea. Like that's just for your main focus project. When I checked that block, then I was like, okay, back to workflowy, which is the task manager that I use. And I'm like, what do I need to do to keep moving the ball forward in my business? What is that next step? And, I'm doing 5 interviews a week for Entrepreneurs on Fire. I'm pumping out massive content there, social media, emails. I'm on other people's shows every single month. I actually have 1 day per month where I'm on 20 other podcasts. That's just my commitment to keep my voice, my message out there on other people's shows. So I have all these different things that I'm doing, to run my business, to keep Entrepreneurs on Fire, at a multi-million-dollar a year level, which has now been since 2013. So it wasn't just like I'm just writing my book for 2 hours and then going out by my hammock, by my pool and sipping on Mai Tais. Like that was to start my day, to make sure I got that work done and the quality time that I had. Because that was when I was freshest. My mind was clearest. I was ready to go. I hadn't had like a day of mental taxing bandwidth that I was then like, okay, the last 2 hours there, I'm going to write this book. Like, this book deserved the best of me, the best of what I could create and do. And just a quick side note before I pass the mic back over, I didn't know you were allowed to say icing on the cake on this podcast. I thought that was like a swear word.
It's equivalent to. I also didn't know we were allowed to say Entrepreneurs on Fire anymore. I thought it was only EO Fire. So
we had a little battle with Entrepreneur Magazine. I won.
I remember that. You won. Good for you. I'm like, honestly, that because your show was called Entrepreneurs on Fire. You were there first. And I know for a little while switched to EO Fire. So there you go. More perseverance. I know after a couple of years, now you get it back.
Ping.
Good for you. Good. That's fantastic. And just to, iterate on your point there, first thing in the morning, I mean, no matter what, it really is. So, my family wakes up around 7:15 on an average daily basis. So I just have to plan for them being up at 7. So what I do is I just get up 90 minutes before them. That's it. And I know that seems like a lot, at 5:30 a.m., but I can go to bed at 10 and I can get 7.5 hours of sleep and I can get good quality sleep. And then when they're up, well, then it's their time for an hour or so. But if you can carve out just that first part of your day for your exercise, if your health is, or your if your weight loss is the most important to you, or body transformation, like whatever it is, the first 90 minutes, nobody's calling you, especially not at 5:30 in the morning. So I definitely recommend that. And because so many people have these great goals that they should achieve to make sure that they feel fulfilled. And it's always kicked down the road. It's next year I'll do it. Next month I'll do it, whatever it is. When I'm saying you might not get it all done in the next 90 days, but an hour a day can go a long way.
Long way. I mean, there's been massive transformations. We're talking health, again, wealth, business, relationships that can happen in that time frame because it is that consistent dedication where you have your bandwidth. And one thing that we teach actually, specifically in the Freedom and Mastery Journal is the Pomodoro Method. And that is something that I highly recommend people look into because when you use the Pomodoro Method the correct way, and it's a simple process, it's not some confusing method, it can change the game for you. And that was definitely the case for me.
So I want to ask you a little bit about your plan as well. So your new book is 17 steps. So why the number 17? Now, obviously, I know there has to be a specific reason that's not a random number. So why that number?
17 is my favorite number, but that is completely not true. What it was is I literally sat down in late 2019 when I was coming up with the concept of this book. And I said, I've interviewed over 3,000 successful entrepreneurs. I myself have been a successful entrepreneur coming on my 9th year with Entrepreneurs on Fire. Like, what are the foundational principles that all of us have, that Dr. Cabral, that Tim Ferriss, that Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins? Like, if I'm just going to sit here and write all these things down, like, let's just get everything down to one piece of paper. And I just huge brain dump and it was right there in front of me. And I started matching up the ones that were identical and similar, plopping them into one, specific element, one specific principle. And at the end, I had literally shaved it down to 17 principles. There was not 18. There was not 16. It was literally 17 principles, which I created in a chronological order to make a 17-step roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment. If I could have made it 14, I would. If I had to make it 20, I would have. It was 17 steps. So there's no perfect rhyme or reason. It's just that these are the 17 steps that successful entrepreneurs take to find their version of uncommon success, whether that be in business, in finance, in relationships, in health. These are the 17 steps that human beings take to find their version of uncommon success. And, an example I love to give, Dr. Cabral, is right now, there is somebody on some beautiful lake in northern Maine, making $48,000 a year, waking up every day, doing something they love, going out on the lake, fishing, coming back, making a cup of coffee, doing a little bit of work, and in their zone of fire, in their big idea, and living life way below their means. And again, making 48K in a year and living uncommon success because they're happy every single day. They're living in their zone of fire. They're making things happen. That is a version of uncommon success. What I'm doing down here in Puerto Rico is my version of uncommon success. What you're doing right now in Maine with the snow coming down is your version of uncommon success. And that's the point. And this is the roadmap to get there, to get to your version of financial freedom. And the most important thing, your version of fulfillment, because it has to be both. Financial freedom without fulfillment, that's not a great life. And believe me, because I've seen it across the board, it is hard to truly be fulfilled if you have not achieved or are achieving financial freedom. Because if you have to be working for somebody else, doing something, following somebody else's orders and not waking up every day doing what you want to do, man, that's hard to achieve fulfillment in that area. So this is why this is the 17 steps. These are the processes. And this is what I'm passionate about getting out to the world.
That's great. And that key word is, without a doubt, is freedom. Because what I see is that, again, the amount of money you make is irrelevant. All that matters is, when you write down your list of all the different things that you need to pay for expense-wise, and the other things that you would like to have, and you add them all up, usually it's not millions of dollars per year. It's typically far from it. So when people think like, I need to make this, or I need to have this, it's like, well, what do you really need in life? And when you write those things down and you're able to achieve that, I just find any type of income you have that's above your means just gives you more options. It allows you to then do a lot of the things that other people may not be able to get to do. And it's not kind of, I think that there's too much comparison. So people might see you, they might see other people, and they're like, oh, wow, like they have so much, they're doing this, that, and the other thing. You're like, well, do you really want that? Like you have to decide what it is that you want. And then whatever it is that you want, you still have to work this, as you say, common path. And I'm assuming you're calling it the common path is because, well, 80% of the successful people that you know or more use these particular steps. Is that correct?
It's exactly correct. It is a very common path to uncommon success. It is a path that we have all trod upon. And unfortunately, a lot of people in this world want you to think this is a secret path. It's a complicated path. It's this, hidden path. It's none of those things. It is a very common path to your version of uncommon success. And that's what this book is doing. It is shattering those illusions that it takes $1,997.97 to unlock the secret key to success. That is not true. A lot of people want you to think it is. It's just not. It literally is a 17-step roadmap to your version of uncommon success. And I love that you use the word comparison. I'm such a believer in that. If you compare yourself to other people, you will despair. I call it the compare and despair fallacy. Like, what am I supposed to compare myself right now to Elon Musk because he has so much more money than me and despair that I have 8 figures of net worth? Like, why would I do that? Of course not. And is Elon Musk, should he compare himself to me because I'm in a thriving, happy relationship and his relationship is in shambles? No, he needs to compare himself to himself yesterday. I compare myself to me yesterday. And if I'm usually, most of the time, winning that comparison, I'm winning at life. I don't compare myself to anybody else. Right now, my buddy's here. This guy's 41 years old. He's from Maine as well. He is just this, genetic freak of nature. He looks amazing, a 6-pack, all these things. That's him. He's drinking beer every night too. I'm like, how does he do it? Like, I haven't drank beer in 10 years and, I'm struggling, to see a 2-pack. Like, I don't compare myself to him because to compare is to despair. I compare myself to me yesterday. And again, if I'm winning that comparison most of the time, not all the time, go easy on yourself from time to time, but most of the time, I'm going to win at life. So over the past 5 years of myself working with Dr. Cabral, comparing myself to me yesterday and usually winning that comparison, I'm the healthiest I've ever been. I'm the fittest I've ever been. I'm the leanest I've ever been. My body fat's lower than I've ever been because I'm comparing myself to me yesterday and I'm winning that battle. So compare and despair don't do it. Compare yourself to you yesterday. And if you're winning most of the time, you've got this.
Yeah, that's a great point. I really like that. And I hadn't heard that, analogy or put it like that before in terms of a phrase. But when you only look at, am I better than yesterday? Am I better than last week? Or simply, have I improved? You can win that. You really can. It's difficult because we always look towards the end point of our goal, and it seems so far off in the future. But if we just say, well, this is what I need to do today in order to get that way off there, then we can accomplish that. So you can write 2 pages today. You can't write a 300-page book or a 200-page book, but you can write 2 pages today, right? And if you do that long enough, you'll have that 300-page book. So I think that's a better mindset to have. Another question I wanted to ask you was, how long do these 17 steps take? Meaning, is my road different than your road? Could it take 3 years and 6 months? Like, what does that look like?
So listen, it is a very common path, but it is a very unique path. So these 17 steps, each one of these steps is going to take as long as it takes for you to master that. So every single one of these steps is broken up into chapters, 17 chapters. There's 3 sections in every single chapter. Section 1 is, what is that thing? So for chapter 1, the example is how to identify your big idea. So section 1 of 3 sections of chapter 1 is, how do you identify your big idea? I have exercises, templates. What is your zone of fire? We go through the whole process and you crush it. Then I share in section 2, how did I implement that in my journey? So you get a real world perspective. And then I sat down and I said, of the 3,000 people that I've interviewed, who best exemplifies this specific step? And I reached out to that entrepreneur, brought them in, and they contributed their real world perspective of how they accomplished their big idea and how they've implemented it in their lives and their advice for my readers of this book. And that's the 3 sections. So you get those 3 great different steps and sections, and you don't move on to the next step, to that next chapter, until you've mastered that. And there's a companion course that goes along with it. So you'll know with the video tutorials and the templates that come along with this when you've mastered it. For some people, that chapter is going to take 24 hours, 1 week, 2 weeks. They'll get there, they'll do it. And then they move on to step 2, 3, and 4. So the timeline is going to be unique to you. I believe that the vast majority of individuals are going to be able to read and implement these steps within 3 months, from steps 1 to 17. And then from months 3 to 6, you should be able to apply these principles that you've learned and be accomplishing some version of your version of uncommon success at that point, and then be ready to amplify that to the next level. So months 0 to 3, really getting each one of these steps and chapters foundationally correct. 3 to 6, applying them in your real life and business, and 6 and beyond, turning up the heat and amplifying. Yeah,
that's fantastic. And this sounds a lot like, you're using this like a workbook. It's a book, but really you are putting this into practice. And I really like that because, so often we're given, and that's why, although I love research and I love the work of many PhDs and people out there, we have to understand is like, we have to take that and then become a practitioner. Because if we're only going by theory and what may work, we're not actually putting it to the test. So I like that people are able to do that. And I know a lot of people might say, well, I want to accomplish my goal in 3 months. Well, I think that there's probably a lot of people out there that reading this book, they may have already done, and they just need to refine maybe the first 10 steps. And then they go, okay, now I'm going to get into this. This is what I'm missing here. And for the people who say, well, it's not fast enough, this, that, and the other thing I would say is, listen, the whole thing I believe about goal setting is that you have to work a professional plan. Like you have to work a real plan, not a short-term temporary gain-based plan. There are a lot of plans that can help you lose weight or temporarily feel like you have more energy, but that's not getting you well. And so you really do need like the full plan. And I believe too, that there is that amplification process. Like it takes you 90 days to get it down, and then you don't even know what you don't know. Then you can crank it up after that. So I really like that. And
I love what you brought up too about like how most health books like kind of miss on the practitioner side of things, which your book obviously does a great job because you understand that. Most business books miss on the workbook side of things and the actual, doing the work, because they're so motivational and inspirational, which by the way, it's important to have motivation and inspiration, but I love Brian Tracy's quote is that, motivation is like a shower. You've got to get up every day and get motivated. You got to get up every day and take a shower, because otherwise you stink by the end of the day. Like, motivation will fade. Inspiration will fade. You'll read this book, you'll get all fired up, but the book's done. You go on your life. A couple of days later, you're like, what just happened? Like, what am I actually doing? And that's why these just plain old motivational, inspirational business books, they are not getting the job done. Now, real quick side note, I believe in inspiration and motivation. I love it. I think there's a place for it. So I have a bonus chapter. It's chapter 18. It's called The Well of Knowledge. For 9 years, I've been writing down and taking notes on the things that inspired me most, the quotes, the sayings, the passages. And I put all of these things into chapter 18. I call it the Well of Knowledge. It's not meant to go to chapter 18 and read it through. It's a massive chapter. It's meant to go there every now and then when you're feeling a little down, a little unmotivated, you need a little pick me up. You take your ladle, you dip it into the Well of Knowledge, you read a passage, 2 passages, you get motivated, you get inspired, the light goes on, then you get back to work, back to step 4, back to step 7, back to chapter 12. That's how you use this book correctly.
That's great. That's the hidden chapter right there. Now people know that they're going to get that. So that's the great thing, because I'm a huge, I believe absolutely in inspiration, motivation. I try to start my day that way just because of Brian Tracy's quote. It's like, we just need to get ourselves in the right mindset. So however you do that, fantastic. But then it's like, well, once you're there, you don't need to go back for then more inspiration in the next few minutes. That's when you need to then get to work on whatever it is. So I'm a big proponent of scheduling your day, of just basically saying, I don't need to try to figure out that morning what I'm going to do that day because it's already been scheduled the night before. I know you're a big believer in that. You'll sometimes do 18 podcasts in a day, which is completely insane. Tell me a little bit about your scheduling process and how people can use that to more successfully implement a lot of these ideas.
So I'm a huge believer in the concept of winning tomorrow today. If you wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, what am I going to do today? Which is, by the way, what most people do. It's the sleepy brain wins, the brain that just woke up, that hasn't quite got going wins. And you go for the lowest hanging fruit. You go for just like the easiest thing to do, emails, social media, scrolling through Instagram. You've already lost the day. You're on OPP, other people's propaganda, other people's agenda, whatever you want to call it. Like, you've lost the day. I wake up every morning. The night before, my agenda was set. I knew exactly what I was going to accomplish. I was a disciple to that plan of action, and I made it happen. And that's actually in the journals you mentioned. I have that exact same saying right there. Win tomorrow today. List it out. What are you doing tomorrow? Don't let the tomorrow you make those decisions. Make those decisions now, what you know needs to happen. Then you just wake up and you look down and you execute. That's how you win at a high level. That's how I've done over 3,000 episodes in 9 years. That's how I do 20 episodes on other shows one day every single month. That's how I wrote a 71,000 word book, in the first 8 months of 2020. This is how I'm going on a mind-bending, promotional and press tour right now that would literally pop people's heads off, but it's plans. It's executed. I take one step at a time. Who am I talking to next? I really don't know, but it's on my calendar. And after I get off this call, I will go there. I'll click on the link and I will be ready to rock because my plan is in place and I execute.
Yeah. And one of the great things about you is that you always come with energy. And I think that's one of the big parts and secrets to life of achieving something is energy. And so that's why the tagline to my podcast is change your body, change your life, because I just think that you need to have that energy. And if you don't have that right now and you have these big dreams outside of your own health, work on your health, figure that out, use these 17 steps as well to just try to improve your overall health. But then you can start to move towards all these bigger goals because it's not a one-day thing. It's 365 days a year. Like, yes, you can have down days, but it doesn't mean that your mind is really ever off of your single focus, because then it's very hard to get back in if you're not even thinking about any of your goals or anything that you enjoy to work towards Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Well, when Monday comes, you need to then start that engine back up again. So if it's always kind of moving forward, I think it's one more of those little secrets to move forward. What are your thoughts on that, though?
And thank you, by the way, for saying that I come with energy, and I really try to, and I do. But hey, why? And what is one of those reasons? It's because I'm living my big idea. I am in my zone of fire. This is what I love doing. I love having conversations with Dr. Cabral and whoever else I'll be speaking to today. Smart, motivated, exciting people who are doing their, greatness in this world. And I'm having conversations with them on my show, on their shows. Like, I love this. This is what I chose to do. And this is what I love doing. And this is frankly now, after putting in all of these reps, I'm really good at doing, because I put in those reps. I was not really good day one. I got there. I'm good now. And I'm hoping to be great someday. Like, I'll get there, but that's the journey. That's the process. And so I'm in my zone of fire. So if you are like, man, I just don't know if I could have that kind of energy for this or for that, it's because you're not living in your zone of fire. You are not waking up every day doing the thing you're meant to be doing, being your big idea. I mean, the amount of work, energy, and bandwidth that Dr. Cabral puts in every single day, people that weren't living in their big idea or their zone of fire, they couldn't do it. They would fail because they couldn't keep up the consistency. But he loves doing this. You hear it in his voice on his podcast, in his books. Every time you engage with him, that's an example. So that's why it's so key to go back to step one, chapter one, because a lot of people have either got it completely wrong, or they need a massive or minor tweak, pivot, adjustment, or they can validate that, in fact, I am currently doing my big idea. At least it's good to know. I'm in my zone of fire. Now let's go to step two. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, if you're not choosing something that naturally lights you up, well, it's a dead giveaway that you're trying to live someone else's life, because you're just trying to emulate their success.
A weak, pale imitation of that person. And I see it all the time. People see success with someone's podcast or YouTube show or practice or product or service, and they go, I'm just going to do that because they're having success. Well, they're a weak, pale imitation of that. And they're surprised that they failed. Of course they're going to fail.
Right. Yeah. It's not authentic. It's not them. And everybody knows it. That's the thing too. There was obviously, how many Entrepreneur on Fire podcasts popped up after you? 10,000, but like, unless they gave it their own voice, it's just not going to happen. And so, yours was very deliberate. It was planned. I'm sure, just like obviously your new book, it's very detailed, but at the same time, you're authentic. You're living your life, and you lived out the journey that you were looking to seek, and you were sharing that with others. Like in the beginning, it was like, well, I want to become successful. I'm listening and I'm interviewing other successful people. And then all of a sudden you started becoming more successful than a lot of those other successful people, but it's osmosis. You were around it, you absorbed it, and then you lived it. And so I think that's a big thing. And that's why whatever it is, learn more. Like, just don't stop learning about whatever it is, but then take action. That's such a big thing for me, is that you have to stop analyzing and begin to take action.
I love it. So true.
So one of the things I want to ask you is, before we begin to pull everything together, I would love to know, and I typically have been asking people this. So when does the Common Path to Uncommon Success debut? Like, when does that launch?
March 23rd. All
right, March 23rd. So this show, of course, will be out before then. But I would love to know, now that you wrote the book, is there anything within the book that you wish you could have added? Or are there any mistakes that people may make that we can save them right now when they read the book?
So listen, I'm a transparent guy. I love being open and honest. One of my favorite things about those income reports I told you about is when I get to share a failure, because I want people to know that I make mistakes. I fail all the time. Here's proof. Look at my income reports. I talk about them whenever they happen. And I've made some doozies in the past year, 100%. This book was so intentional, so deliberate. The answer to that question is just no. Everything that could possibly be in this book is in this book. I mean, I poured it in there. I worked so hard with my editor, so hard with my publisher. Like, this book is a completed document. I don't think I have a second book in me, and I just don't. Like, this is the book. Now, maybe in 5 years, you'll be like, but John, we're back here talking about your second book. I'm like, oh yeah, well, who knows? But I'm telling you, man, like, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, I loved writing this book. It was painful. It hurts. It was complete. I feel like I have just completed that chapter of my life right now. And it is the best work I have ever created. And it's complete. So the quick answer to that is no. I do not feel like I've made any mistakes or left anything else. Now, to the second part of your question, where it is of people that might be picking up this book and consuming it. Listen, The mistake you'll make is just trying to either, number one, start at the step that you think you're at. So for instance, you're going to look at the table of contents. You'll be like, oh, I'm at step 11. So great. I get to skip the first 10 chapters and start at 11 and just go forward. Wrong. You have many, many mistakes in chapters 1 through 10 and steps 1 through 10. You need to go back and go through each chapter intentionally and deliberately. Validate and confirm where you crush it. Awesome. Give yourself a pat in the back. Tweak and pivot those little things on some of those chapters and steps that you didn't quite get right. And some things you're going to be back on the drawing board and you will completely revamp your business in that specific step. So don't start where you think you are. Go to step 1, chapter 1, and go chronologically through this book. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your business. You owe it to those people who love you and count on you and you are supporting in your life, whether financially or emotionally, whatever that looks like. You owe it to them to do this right. It is a 17-step process. Do it from step 1 to step done, period.
I like that. And don't be dogmatic. That's a big thing, is a lot of people won't go back and look and actually question where they're at right now by doing those steps, simply because they don't want to know if what they're doing right now is not perfect or it could be better. And to those people, I say is there's nothing wrong with that. We're a lot like that. So, all of us are. But if we take those deep, hard looks and we do it now, we won't have to do it 5 years from now. And you're going to be so much better off 12 months from now if you begin to just tweak things a bit. You don't have to pull everything apart. But I do that all the time. It's like, I always ask myself, what am I missing right now? It's just simply like that. It's just like, if I were to do this in a different way, how would it be done? And so that's why for me, I'm always trying to read every different side to the equation, because we always approach things from our own mindset and we're only as good as our own questions. So that's why I know by people partaking, by using this book like a workbook, you're going to be able to get the right questions to answer and take your time. Like, again, I just don't think it's a race. Like, take your time, get it right, and then you're going to be off to the races.
Could not agree more. I mean, that's why, when you came down here and you were in my house in Puerto Rico, we're working on your podcast, your topic, your concepts. I was like, this individual is dogmatic. Like, he questions everything in a good way. Like, he's not just taking things to take them. Like, he's questioning every step of his process of why I'm giving him this advice specifically. That's the way you need to operate in life. And you need to question every step of your personal journey. You need to question every step of the common path that you've been on thus far. And if you're not currently living your version of uncommon success, there are reasons, multiple reasons. Let's uncover them together.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the end, so the subtitle, essentially, the tagline is a roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment. Tell me a little bit about what that looks like, because everyone wants to get to that end place. So we talked a little bit about what financial freedom might represent and fulfillment. But again, you've spoken with 3,000 successful, not just regular entrepreneurs, but successful entrepreneurs. What do the commonalities in that look like?
I mean, you said this earlier in the interview and you nailed it. The key word of that phrase is freedom. You're a human being. You crave freedom. We crave freedom. We crave the freedom to do what we want to do, when we want to do it, with whom we want to do it with. If you can be doing those things, you're living life. You're living a great life. You're living a free life. And that's the concept. That's the goal. That's what a lot of us, these 3,000 interview guests that I've interviewed over the years, have achieved. They've achieved their version of freedom. Like, when I wake up in the morning, I'll give you a quick example. Woke up this morning, my best friend's in town with his family. We went on an amazing hike here. Submarine Hill it's called. We jumped in the ocean. We swam. We were floating in the waves. We got back here, jumped in my pool. We're hanging out. Music was playing. Loving life. And then they went off to go do lunch down here in Palmas del Mar at the plaza. And I was like, all right, just like I chose, my interviews today started at noon. So I had the morning open to do amazing things, and spend amazing time with my best friend and his family. And now this afternoon from 12 p.m. till 7:15, that 7-hour and 15-minute block, I am getting out there and I am chatting about my book, about value I can add to the world, doing what I want to do. So my version of freedom is waking up in the morning and having a calendar that is exactly what I set up. Everything on my calendar is a yes from me. Yes, I want to do this. Yes, I want to do that. I have been on the no train for years now. because I've been able to. And I've said no to almost everything that I frankly don't want to do, because I don't have to say yes to anything. Everything that I say yes to is because it is a heck yes. And guess what? That wasn't day one for me. Back 2012, I had to say yes to everything to get my business off the ground, to grind, to work, to struggle, which is why some of my health suffered. And that's why, I'm so grateful to have been connected with Dr. Cabral and his community. But I'm on the absolute freedom train right now. Like, this is the train that I'm at, and I know how amazing it is. And this is why I've spent my time, my book, my energy, my money, writing this book, promoting this book, getting it out there to the world, because I want other people to have this. I really do, because it's the ripple effect. When I get to help inspire somebody who's now going off and doing something they might not otherwise have done, and inspiring other people like Dr. Cabral has done with his podcast, like, that is a ripple effect of now we are both impacting this world in a major way. Just like when Dr. Cabral takes an unhealthy person, makes them healthy, and now they're a better father, mother, parents, human being, and they're going off and inspiring others by their transformation, by their help. He's making this world such a healthier place. Not that one person, but now all the people that one person is positively impacting and making better. That's why I get up every day and do what I do. And again, with the freedom to choose to do it.
Yeah, that is, when you already have financial freedom, you have financial freedom. You don't have to work anymore. So I think that's strange for a lot of people, because they say, if I didn't have to work anymore, I wouldn't be working anymore. And to those people
in their zone of fire, it's because they're not living in their big ideas, because they're not doing what they want to do. Like, what do I want to do today? I wanted to do what I did this morning, which was awesome. But now I want to be doing this. This is awesome. I'm loving this conversation. I'm on fire right now.
Yes, and I think that's why people need to find their big idea, their big, I would say their big why. Like, why is it that you are here? What are you passionate about that you would do if money wasn't an object? Because on your podcast, I would say at least half of the people probably don't need to work anymore, yet they're working harder than a lot of other people, and their schedule is packed more than most other people that have to work. And so for those same people, I'm assuming, and I would like you to let me know, is it because they've found what is fulfilling for them? And it might be work, it might be charity, it might be whatever it is. But have you seen that over the past 3,000 interviews?
They found how they want to spend their days, because how they spend their days is how they spend their lives. And a lot of them had a big financial windfall when they sold a company, or just cross a certain threshold financially in their business, which is what I did years ago. And they have more money than they'll ever need or want to spend. And they take some time off and they're like, why am I so unfulfilled? Why am I technically so unhappy? Like, why am I just feeling so irrelevant in this world? It's because they are irrelevant. They've stopped adding value to this world. And it's surprising for somebody, and people who are hearing my voice who have experienced this know it, but otherwise it's hard to understand. And I get that they're feeling like this emptiness inside, and in their heart, they're just like, well, why am I here? What am I doing? Like, am I literally just supposed to sleep in every day and go to the pool and just play an app, video game all day? Like, no, like, you're here because you want to be relevant in this world, in your zone of fire, in your area of expertise. Like, that's the power. That's the opportunity you have. And that's what so many of the individuals that I've interviewed have gone through. They have gone through that. All right, I worked so hard, I'm done. Now it's just, I'm going to play golf all day, every day. Like, and then they're like, well, I want to play golf, like, maybe 9 holes in the morning or whatever. And I'm like, people are still crushing it. Like, I just interviewed somebody. He goes and plays golf every day at 5 p.m. Like, that's what he does. But he has a very relevant, meaningful passion that he works on every single day from X hour to X hour. And that's his life that he's constructed. And it's very, very possible. It's not like simple, but it is a common path. It takes hard work, and it's achievable, and it's there for people if they go through the process.
Yeah, and I can't recommend it enough, because most people are working hard. They really are. The problem is they're just on the wrong path. So it's just like a lot of the people that and I know, they're not necessarily working harder. They're just on the right path. And that makes it that much more fulfilling because they're doing the work they love, they're getting compensated for it, and they can see themselves progressing in life. For me, it's just about growth and progress. Like I no longer have that 5-year or 10-year plan. I really don't. It's just, I know the direction that I want to be heading. I've achieved a lot of the smaller things that I did want to achieve in life. And now I really do want to, it's about the unfolding. It's that I want to just continue to do more of what I love. And I really believe that things open up to me when I'm on that path. And that's why when you said that this is it, this is your book, I say, well, probably in 5 years, yeah, we'll be back here. We'll be talking about your next book as well. It'll just be on a different topic, because when you when you have that mindset and when you'd love to be in the growth-based perspective, it never ends, and that's the fun part.
It's true.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
Maybe 9 years. I think once every 9 years.
You've got a lot more to go. That's for sure. So March 23rd, 2021, the Common Path to Uncommon Success, a roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment. Where can people pick up this book? Because it is on pre-sale right now.
Yeah, pre-orders. Listen, do not wait for this book to go live, because once it does, you will miss out on 5 amazing pre-order bonuses we're attaching to this book. We wanted to make this an absolute no-brainer and just absolutely dominate and crush pre-orders, because that makes or breaks a successful book launch. So we're going all out on this. One of those bonuses, by the way, Dr. Cabral, we've mentioned a little bit here. I'm literally shipping all 3 of my journals to the door of every single person that pre-orders one book, one common. You pre-order one of my books, I am shipping the Freedom, the Mastery, and the Podcast Journal to your door if you're based in the US. Outside, you get immediate access to the beautiful fillable digital packs. They're gorgeous. Plus, there's 4 other insane bonuses. I won't spoil them. Got to go check them out for yourself. UncommonSuccessBook.com. And again, this book has been personally endorsed by Seth Godin, by Gary Vaynerchuk, by Neil Patel, by Dory Clark, by Erica Mandy. Like, so proud of those endorsements. So if you go to that page, you'll see the endorsements. You'll see a video from me about the book with some details on it. You'll see the 5 bonuses in full, including, of course, the 3 journals getting shipped to your door. UncommonSuccessBook.com. This is my best work ever. And I promise, if you apply these principles, you will be shocked at where you're at in 6 months. Guaranteed.
Wow, that's amazing. And I have no idea how you were giving away 4 books for the price of 1.
Losing money on every single one. But yeah. Frankly, I know I'm honest about it. I'll share with you just how much in my next income report. It'll be a ton, but it's not a financial play for me. I'm there. I've checked that block. I am making this a no-brainer for every single person that just, I know, needs to get this message, because someone's going to do this for the journals, for the awesome value of a $16 Kindle, of this book. And they're going to read it. It's going to change their lives. They're going to buy it for other people. They're going to give it to their loved ones, and it's going to have this ripple effect. That's what's going to happen. That's why I am willing to do this for every single pre-order.
And that's the amazing thing. And it is because you've already achieved your financial freedom. You are feeling fulfilled. You're doing that. So you're basically paying to do things that you love. And that's absolutely amazing, because I was just going to ask you, like, how are you possibly able to break even doing 4 books? And you're not, but that's amazing. I mean, it really is. So
I'm with a traditional publisher. So, I mean, I'm making like $1 a book.
Yes.
I mean, it's ridiculous how far from breaking even I am. Again, not the point. So
trust me. I know the publisher Rude. That was the first and second book of mine. And literally, when I'm like, hey, you can purchase my book, I make $1. So please don't think that I'm like hard promoting this to make that, $1 for the book. But an author writes a book for the most part because it's information that they have to share. It's within them and they have to get it out. So I would say, get this book, use it like a workbook. But then if you can get those bonuses by purchasing before March 23rd, do that, because that's absolutely unbelievable for you to get 3 of those journals, which, by the way, I just want to ask you right now, what is the Podcaster's Journal? Because I'm not as familiar with that one.
The Podcast Journal. This is our most recent purchase. It is how to create and launch your journal in 50 days. So if you've ever said, I love Dr. Cabral's podcast, I feel like I have a podcast in me. This is a 50-day step-by-step how to create and launch your podcast.
Unbelievable. That's fantastic. I'm going to link all of this up in today's show notes. I'm also going to link up the podcast course that you have. I know that you're not talking about that today.
Free podcast course.
But it's what I started with, and I wanted to be able to share that with others as well. So, Mr. John Lee Dumas, where can we connect with you online as well on social?
So the podcast is Entrepreneurs on Fire. My handles on all the socials are at John Lee Dumas. And that's all I'll share right now. I'm just passionate about this book, uncommonsuccessbook.com. That's the focus. Get there, pre-order, get all the bonuses. And I am very grateful, and I do not take for granted you bringing me on your amazing platform to let me talk to your audience on a slightly different topic than they might be used to. But I really hope a lot of people are going to reach out to you and say, despite the fact this wasn't talking about how to improve my thyroid, like I did get value from this conversation. So that's my hope. So if you're listening out there, let Dr. Cabral know you didn't hate this episode. It would mean a lot to me.
No, 100%. And that's the thing is I bring on world-class experts in all areas of life. That's what these conversations are all about. So once again, thank you so much for being on the show, and all the best of success with the book launch.
You rock.